Senate Bill 461 renames I-84 the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Highway. It is a tribute to the armed forces that served in the war in Vietnam between 1959 and 1975, especially to those who became casualties. The Vietnam War has a very special place in my heart because they come from, I consider, my era. I had many friends who served, and several of whom died, and some who came back with post-stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, disabilities, and many ailments. I actually had the honor of flying in and out of Vietnam, Saigon and Cam Ranh Bay specifically, when I was working for Pan American Airlines. And it was 1969 and 1970, and it was my first exposure to war and the impact it had on our soldiers. I remember when they would board the plane and some of their faces were ashen. The looks in their eyes of many were just vacant. They were always kind and professional, and I could not believe how quiet they were. And I was extremely moved, and being in my early 20s, I grew up a lot during those 2 years. Senate Bill 461 is a way to honor those Oregonians who served in Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos. In fact, any veteran of the Vietnam War will know that they are being honored no matter what state he or she lives in if they travel down I-84 in Oregon, which goes right through my district. The Veterans Affairs Committee, thanks to our wonderful committee administrator, has sent a letter to Idaho and Utah telling them about renaming I-84 and asking them if they would consider continuing that name on I-84 that goes through Idaho and Utah where it ends. The Vietnam War veterans served in close and often brutal quarters, but they all shared a bond and often say when they meet one another, "Welcome home." I don't have to go into the detail about how often these men and women who served in Vietnam War were shabbily treated upon their return from what had become a very unpopular war. That said, it is apparent that for the past 11 years, ever since we began to send our best young people to Afghanistan and 2 years later into Iraq, people have become better understanding about what it means when a young person goes off to war in the name of the United States. As a result, Vietnam War veterans now have been given their just due. There's the wall, which is wonderful in Washington, D.C. There's one in Portland and Bend. Many of the men and women who served in Vietnam have for years been dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and many of them suffer and died from murderous diseases that were caused by exposure to herbicides. And it took years, many years, to be justly recognized for those problems. We now have a newfound understanding of what it means to go to war, surviving things that very few of us have ever experienced or will ever experience, and then come home and return to civilian life. There is no question that recognition of their sacrifices, as the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Highway does, will help those in need to further the process of finally welcoming Vietnam veterans home. It would mean a lot to us, and especially to those veterans. On September 15th, 2012, the Oregon State Council, Vietnam Veterans of America, approved a proposal to designate all of Interstate 84 in Oregon as a Vietnam Veterans Memorial Highway. And they hope to dedicate the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Highway on Veterans Day 2013. Colleagues, let's welcome home our Vietnam War veterans with an aye vote. Thank you.